You're listening to the Secret Marketing Diary of Personal Brands, where being the face of your business gets to be powerful, profitable, and unfiltered. One of the biggest lies people tell themselves online is, I don't really have a personal brand. But you do. Your personal brand is the way that people perceive you, remember you, refer to you, and decide whether or not they're going to trust you. If you don't intentionally craft it, they will fill in the blanks for you. The reason why most personal brands are being ignored, it's because they are forgettable. Forgettable brands, they say, help women step into their power, but never clarify what that actually means, right? They try to sound smart, they try to sound super clever, but end up sounding super vague. They're mimicking what they've seen that works, but they lose their own voice in the process, and they sound the same in every single space. They never cut through. Memorable brands, on the other hand, they make people feel seen and called in within literally 3 seconds. They speak directly to the problem their audience is dealing with. They take a stand. They have a vibe. They don't blend in. They get talked about when they're not in the room. Let me say something that might just surprise you. You already have a personal brand. Yes, you do. And you're like probably shaking your head right now. No, Gina, I don't. Even if you've never picked up a color palette, even if you've never posted consistently, even if you've never hired a brand strategist or figured out your elevator pitch, even if you don't have a logo, even if you haven't figured out your favorite fonts, none of that actually matters because your personal brand is not something that you just start. It is something that you already are. So the question isn't whether or not you have one. The question is your personal brand working for you or is it working against you? And more importantly, is anyone actually paying attention to it? So let's talk about it. One of the biggest lies people tell themselves online is, I don't really have a personal brand. But you do. Your personal brand is the way that people perceive you, remember you, refer to you, and decide whether or not they're going to trust you. It's the energy that you bring into the room. It's the language that you use. It's your opinions. It's your positioning. It's your tone. It's your personality. It's what people say about you when you're not on the call, when you're not in the room, when you're not in the DMs. And if you don't intentionally craft it, they will fill in the blanks for you, which is exactly how brilliant, experienced, high integrity experts end up getting overlooked, while louder, less qualified brands are booked out. Let's be real. In the last several years, especially since the vid, we are past the point of branding being about logos, fonts, and photo shoots. The reason why most personal brands are being ignored, it's not because they're not good, it's because they are forgettable. Trying to be palatable instead of positioned, instead of bold, instead of blunt. And here's the difference. Forgettable brands, they say, help women step into their power, but never clarify what that actually means, right? They try to sound smart, they try to sound super clever, but end up sounding super vague. They're mimicking what they've seen that works, but they lose their own voice in the process because they're just copying, and they sound the same in every single space. Email, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, website, they never cut through. Memorable brands, on the other hand, they make people feel seen and called in within literally 3 seconds. They speak directly to the problem their audience is dealing with. They take a stand. They have a vibe. They don't blend in. They get talked about when they're not in the room. If you've ever had someone say to you, I have been following you for a while, but I didn't really get what you do until now. That's your personal brand whispering when it needs to be walking in the room and owning it. Okay. So I can't tell you how many times people have said to me too, hey, Gina, I have been following you for so long, and there's something that you said that just made me feel and made me know that you are my person. That is when you know your personal brand is actually speaking and it's disrupting and it's stopping the scroll. And so this is part of why I created personally through this entire experience and journey of myself really taking control of my personal brand. And I created what I call the in demand method, which is part of our visibility to profits framework. Because creating content is not the same as building a brand. You can post every single day and you can still get ignored if your brand isn't activated and if it's not activating other people. So, how do we change that? There's three pillars that are a part of this. The first one is igniting demand, right? This is when you are creating this emotional connection combined with recognizable positioning. Okay. So, what I mean by this is you don't just get hired because you're helpful. You get hired when people feel like you get them, when they feel like you are really walking the talk, like you have been in their shoes. And this means moving beyond value and tapping more into the real emotional resonance that your ideal clients have. This is the difference between saying things like, here are 5 tips for focus, versus if you're stuck staring at your to do list, wondering why your brain's glitching every 5 minutes, here's what your content strategy is missing, right? It's the same message. I'm basically saying the same thing, but one of them is much more powerful. One is going to get scrolled while the other one is actually going to get saved and activate my audience. The second pillar of my in demand method is influence demand. And you do this through authority, through your voice, and belief shifting content. So personal brands that stand out, they're not just repeating what others are saying. They are reframing it using their own language, their own personality, their own angles. They're introducing new angles. They are shifting how people think. They take a bold stance that makes people say, whoa, I've never heard it said like this before. So if your audience doesn't know what you believe, they're not going to trust you and they're not going to trust in what you're selling. And if they don't see you as a leader, they're going to treat your content like a free Pinterest board. And we don't want that. The third pillar of my in demand method is you need to invite demand. And this is where you want to get really clear with your offers. You need to have intentional call to actions and branded conversion paths. Okay. So if you have a method, teach it. Teach it inside of a conversion event. This is something that would look like a masterclass, maybe a challenge, maybe it's a workshop. That would be a conversion event. This is where your personal brand turns into actual sales. It's where your visibility becomes bookings. Because look, let's be honest. A lot of experts, they have incredible value, but they're still getting ignored because they're not inviting the demand. No clear next step, no frictionless experience. There's no sense of, I know what she offers and how I can buy it. And there's no click in the bio, right? That's not going to cut it either. Your personal brand, it needs to build trust before people ever actually click. So when they do, it's not a hard sell and it's more like a hell yes. So by the time you get in contact with a lead that converts into a prospect, before they become a prospect, they should already be thinking about saying yes to working with you in some capacity. And that's what we want when we are showing up as a personal brand that is a leader, not that's following what everyone else does. So, quick story. One of my clients came to me after spending about 12 grand on a complete new rebrand. Okay. New colors, new logo, this super gorgeous website. But what wasn't working was her message, her position in the marketing, her visibility. She wasn't building traffic to that beautiful website because everything that she was posting was super generic. It had no resonance. There was no clear call to action. There was nothing that was activating her audience. It was very vague, very bland. It sounded like every other mindset coach out there. And what she didn't need was a prettier brand. Actually, she probably could have saved that 12 grand. What she needed was a much more powerful one. So we rewrote her bio. We clarified her value positioning. We built out an authority-based content strategy that finally told the story of who she was and how she changed lives. This included case studies, testimonials, more storytelling, more behind the scenes, seeing her in action, less branded content. And one thing that I will double down on, especially at the time that this is being recorded, moving into 2026, are follow-up messages and more outreach in the DMs. And that's something that was not happening at all in her business. Within 30 days, she had 2 new premium clients without touching her funnel. Okay. Within 24 hours of her starting to use a very simple and casual conversational DM strategy, she had someone buy into her upcoming in-person event for $3,000. Never in the history of her career. And she's been in business now for over 30 years, but really has started to leverage the online space, I would say over the last 5 years or so, just with not a lot of success until now. But literally within 24 hours of that DM strategy that we put together for her, she got someone to buy into her upcoming $3,000 in-person event. So here's my assignment for you. I want you to take 10 minutes today and audit your personal brand presence. Look at your bios in all the places, okay? Whether that's Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. Of course, if you're over on TikTok, same thing over there. But I'm talking about where you get your most engagement. Start there and then move on to the other platforms. Check your website headline. Check your most recent content and ask yourself, does this sound like someone worth investing in? Is my message unforgettable or is it just nice? Do people understand what I solve and why I'm the one for them? And if not, I don't want you to panic. Okay. Just start activating your brand on purpose. Follow these 3 pillars that I just shared for our in-demand method. And if this episode shifted something for you, I would love for you to screenshot it and tag me at Gina Tassinelli. Remember Gina with 2 N's. You're listening to the Secret Marketing Diary of Personal Brands, where being the face of your business gets to be powerful, profitable, and unfiltered.